Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at the AI Index Report 2024.
Yeah, it's like the annual report card for all things AI. It tracks the state of the field, highlighting the biggest developments and trends.
Exactly, and one thing that really jumped out at me this year was the sheer amount of research coming out of the big industry players. We're talking 51 notable machine learning models from industry in 2023 alone.
Wow, 51. That's incredible.
It is, especially compared to just 15 coming from academia. Kind of makes you wonder about the shifting landscape of AI research, right? What do you make of that, given your background?
Well, it's definitely a sign of where the resources and the ambition are these days, but it's not like academia is being left behind. The report also highlights this really interesting trend of collaboration with industry and academic institutions teaming up.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There were 21 models developed jointly.
Exactly. So it's more of a synergistic relationship, each side bringing their strengths to the table.
That makes sense. Speaking of breakthroughs, though, did you see the sheer volume of new foundation models this year? It's crazy. Double the number from last year. Like, GPT-4 seemed revolutionary just a few months ago, and now it's almost old news.
It really is remarkable, this pace of development. And it's not just the number of models, but their accessibility. Many of them are open for anyone to use, which is really democratizing AI and
Sure.
opening up a world of possibilities.
That's what blows my mind. It's like anyone can now theoretically have access to the same kind of AI tools that are powering things like, I don't know, self-driving cars or whatever. It's both exciting and a little daunting, you know? What are we going to do with all this power?
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. This widespread access has amazing potential for innovation, but it also brings up some serious questions about responsibility, bias, and the potential consequences.
For sure. Like, how do we make sure this technology is used for good? And speaking of challenges, the report also dives into this really interesting and potentially scary idea of a data drought. Apparently, we might be running out of high-quality data to train all these amazing AI models,
It's a critical issue. People often get caught up in the excitement of new models, but they forget that these AI systems are incredibly data hungry.
like digital black holes, just
Right.
consuming every bit of information they can get their algorithms on. So what happens when they run out of stuff to eat? Where do we go from there?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question. The report explores some potential solutions, one of the most interesting being synthetic data.
Synthetic data, what is that? Like AI creating its own reality TV show to study?
Kind of. It's basically having AI generate its own training data instead of relying solely on real-world information.
Whoa, okay. So instead of feeding the AI real-world data, we're going to have it create its own version of reality.
Yeah.
That sounds both incredibly cool and also like it could go very wrong very quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex issue with potential pitfalls like model collapse. That's where an AI trained on its own output starts to lose touch with the nuances and diversity of the real world.
So AI might be creating its own reality soon, huh? Kind of a trippy thought. But for now, let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. What about how AI is actually performing right now? The report goes into some specifics about that, right?
It does, and the findings are pretty impressive. AI is making some serious strides, even surpassing human capabilities in certain areas.
Oh, really? Like what? Give me an example.
Well, take image classification, for instance. Some AI models can now analyze images and identify objects more accurately than humans can.
So, like, we're talking AI that can look at a photo and be like, yep, that's German Shepherd,
Yeah,
and be right more often than I would.
exactly. The report actually highlights a case where an AI model outperformed even experienced veterinarians at identifying dog breeds from just one image.
Wow, okay, I gotta admit that's pretty impressive. Though, I'd probably still trust my vet over an algorithm when it comes to my dog's health. But it does make you wonder, where else is AI already ahead of us?
Well, it's not always about directly outperforming humans. It's more about AI's ability to tackle challenges in ways we never thought possible. Like, the report talks about how it's being used to design completely new materials, to create more efficient algorithms, even to predict the weather with greater accuracy.
It's pretty wild when you think about how much AI is already impacting the world around us, often without us even realizing it. But the report doesn't just focus on the positives, does it? We talked earlier about model collapse, but what other areas are still giving AI a run for its money?
Right. Well, as advanced as it's become, AI still struggles with some things that come naturally to humans. Things like understanding context and nuance, or even just sticking to the facts, can be a real challenge for these systems.
So even with all this progress, AI can still have a bit of a truthiness problem.
Yeah, you could say that. For example, the report mentions something called the Truthful QA benchmark, which is designed to test how often AI models just straight up make stuff up.
Truthful QA.
Hmm.
So they're basically giving AI a lie detector test. That's hilarious, but also, like, slightly terrifying. Have
Yeah.
you ever been fooled by an AI's tendency to uh, embellish the truth, let's say?
Oh, more times than I'd like to admit. It's easy to get caught up in how smoothly these systems generate text or hold a conversation, but we have to remember they're good at sounding convincing, even if what they're saying is completely made up, which is why critical thinking skills are more crucial now than ever.
Totally. Like with anything else on the internet, you can't just blindly trust everything you read, or in this case, everything an AI tells you. And speaking of AI's growing presence online, the report spends a lot of time discussing its potential impact on jobs. And some of the numbers are pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, the report shows a massive spike in AI-related job postings, particularly in the US. It's clear that the demand for those skills is absolutely exploding right now.
But that kind of begs the question, is this a net positive or negative? I mean, it's exciting to see all these new opportunities popping up, but it also raises concerns about job displacement, doesn't it?
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. While AI does create new jobs, it also automates tasks that were previously done by humans.
hmm
So we really need to be proactive in preparing the workforce for these changes.
So it's not just about learning how to build AI, it's about adapting the skills we already have and developing new ones that are harder to automate, like creative thinking and problem solving, things that require, actual human ingenuity.
Exactly. The report emphasizes the importance of lifelong learning and continually updating our skill sets. What we learned in school or earlier in our careers may not cut it in this rapidly evolving AI-driven world. We've all got to stay ahead of the curve.
It's a call to action for all of us, really.
Yeah.
And speaking of calls to action, the report takes a bit of a dark turn when it starts talking about AI and elections. That's where things start to feel like an episode of Black Mirror, for sure.
It definitely raises some red flags. The report highlights the growing sophistication of deepfakes, those AI-generated videos that are becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish from the real thing.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to believe what you see these days. It's almost like we're on the verge of a world where anyone can be made to say or do anything on video, regardless of reality.
It's a legitimate concern, and it goes beyond just deepfakes. The report also digs into the issue of bias in AI systems. Even models like ChatGPT, which are designed for conversations, have shown biases based on the data they were trained on.
So it's not just about fake videos, it's about the potential for fake news articles, social media posts, even entire online identities crafted by AI. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Absolutely. It really underscores the importance of media literacy and critical thinking in this new information landscape. We have to be extra cautious about the information we consume and be aware of the potential for manipulation.
Like, we need to level up our BS detectors times 10. We've covered a lot of ground here, from the mind-blowing advancements in AI to the ethical dilemmas and potential pitfalls. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the final takeaways from the report. And we're back. So we've covered a ton of ground in our deep dive into the AI Index report this year. It's a lot to process. Where do we even begin to unpack all this?
It really is remarkable how much the field of AI is evolving at such a breakneck pace. It makes you think about the future, like, what does this all mean? Where are we headed?
Yeah, it's both exciting and a little overwhelming at the same time. As we kind of synthesize all this information, what are some of the biggest takeaways for you? What should we be paying attention to, especially as AI becomes such a major force in the world?
Well, I think the data drought is a major concern. We talked about how essential data is for AI, and if we're facing a future where that data is scarce, it could really hinder progress.
Right, it's like we're building all these super advanced cars, but forgetting to secure a steady supply of fuel.
Exactly. And it's not just about the quantity of data, but the quality too. But aside from that, the sheer speed of advancements is incredible. It seems like every other week there's a new breakthrough pushing the boundaries of what AI can do.
It's true. We started this conversation talking about AI outperforming humans in image recognition, but then the report dives into how it's being used to tackle incredibly complex problems, like designing life-saving drugs and developing more sustainable energy solutions. It's pretty mind-blowing.
Absolutely. The potential benefits across industries are massive. But as with any powerful tool, we have to be aware of the potential risks and approach AI development and deployment responsibly.
It's about striking that balance, right? Embracing the potential while mitigating the risks. And it's not just on the shoulders of scientists and engineers, it's a collective responsibility.
Couldn't agree more. Policymakers, businesses, individuals, we all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI. And hopefully, it's a future that benefits all of humanity.
Well said. And on that note, a huge thank you to you for lending your expertise to this conversation. It's been incredibly insightful.
My pleasure. Always enjoy a good deep dive.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the AI Index Report 2024. We hope it's given you a lot to think about. And if you're eager to learn even more, definitely check out the full report. It's packed with even more fascinating information. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and most importantly, stay curious.